Hey, everybody. What's up? It's your advocacy diva, Rochelle Jackson, and you're tuning into a special series of Listen to Black Women podcast. April is Black Women's History Month, and we're turning up the volume on local Black women who are running for office or serving in elected positions because representation matters, and local elections are where change begins, real change begins. So, first up, we have Miss Amanda Neatrour, an amazing wife, mother, and passionate community activist. She's running for Pittsburgh City Council, but y'all, she wears so many hats. I'm gonna let her tell you more about herself. So here's Amanda.
Hey. Yes. Hello, I'm Amanda Neatrour. And yeah, so I am the owner and founder of Lewis Neatrour Group. I do leadership and organizational development, helping leaders be transformational leaders, being authentic and intentional about aligning their intent and the impact that they have on the people, for whom they're making decisions on behalf of, and organizations making sure, right, that policies that are in place, practices that are in place, and the impact it has on the folks who use the services and also work within the organization. Uh, in addition to that, yes, mom, two boys under the age of 6. I am the primary caregiver to my mom who has Alzheimer's, wife. Actually, my 10-year anniversary is tomorrow. April 18th. I know, I can't believe it. So
Wow.
yeah, 10 years
Remember it
tomorrow.
like it was yesterday.
I'm telling you, it feels simultaneously like it was yesterday, but also it's only been 10
Right, you're right.
years. Um,
Oh. So you
yeah,
Pittsburgh,
go ahead.
are you a Pittsburgh native?
No, I moved to Pittsburgh actually 15 years ago, April 15 years ago. And yeah, funny enough, so did my husband. He moved from Pottstown. I was born in DC, grew up in the Baltimore area, went to Howard University, and then moved here in 2010 to actually study voice full
Oh,
time. I'm a teacher here, got a fellowship at the August Wilson Center, so that I could really focus on, opera, classical music. Did a number of concerts around the area. Um, did co-produce an all-woman opera that I performed in 2022.
awesome.
Yeah, it was actually it was historic. The first time this opera, um, "Song from the Uproar" by Missy Mazzoli,
Mhm.
and the first time it was an all woman production, so every aspect of it was executed by a woman, and also the first time the lead was sung by a Black woman.
Wow.
Yeah, and so that was in 2022. I've been very active in the Pittsburgh community. So I
Mhm.
have the GPAC, Greater Pittsburgh Arts Council. They did some important research looking at racial equity in the arts, and I was one of the original participants of that important report.
Mhm.
I volunteered and served on the Lawrenceville Land Trust Committee. So I believe it was only um I think the first land trust that had been created like on this side of the state
Okay.
to address affordable housing, right? Because of the changing landscape in Lawrenceville, how rapidly prices were going up. So found myself doing housing advocacy work through
Yeah.
that.
Yes.
Of course, spent 4 years on Pittsburgh Gender Equity Commission as one of the inaugural members. I was first vice chair and 9 months pregnant with my first child when that big 2019 report came out,
Mhm.
about Black women. And, again, for those of us who knew, right, not surprising, but it was a landmark report because there are people who didn't know.
Yes.
And is the first time a government entity had done a report like that, looking at race and gender and impact across the board.
Mhm.
And we were able to really say, here's like the data from that government perspective.
Yes.
Um, Became chair, and I have been fortunate to, work with you all, right, with the continuation of the gender pay equity work that came out of the Gender Equity Commission.
Yeah.
So continuing to serve on the Level Up Steering Committee, which I've been so grateful to do, volunteering with the FISA Foundation, and then lastly, I've had the pleasure of being appointed to two state level commissions uh, on behalf of women and girls,
Mhm.
and was newly appointed to the um, Office of Alzheimer's, Dementia, and Related Disorders, which is a brand new office. The first time the state of Pennsylvania will ever have had coordinated efforts in those regards. So I'm serving from the perspective of the caregiver. So really excited to dive into that work. Yeah, a lot.
Oh, I told you all she wears a lot of hats, and now she's looking and expecting to put on another hat. So tell us about this new hat that you are planning to put on, and tell us why it's important. What led you to the actually?
So yes, I am a candidate for office. I'm running for office. So I am a Democratic write-in candidate for city council in the second district. This is like the western part of Pittsburgh. So I've been over here with my husband and my family since we bought our house in 2016. Um, Wonderful neighbors, wonderful neighborhood, very involved folks. And running for office was never something I ever imagined I would do. It was not on my radar. I had no grand ambitions of being in elected office. As I stated, I do a lot already in the community. I have a business. However, I think what compelled me to want to run is, all of the hats that I named previously, besides being a business owner, they're all advocacy, right? It's all about advocating for affordable housing, advocating for support for women and girls, right? Equity for women and girls, advocating for people with disabilities. I'm a disabled person,
Mm-hmm.
advocating for older adults at the state level, advocating for caregivers. And given the fact that I have the experience of working for city government, because I was previously the diversity, inclusion, employment coordinator in human resources, working with community groups, advocating for workers' rights and support for inclusion in the workplace at the city level. Um, I had the government experience. I understand what it means to be a transformational and responsive leader. I literally coach leaders and support them in doing that for major organizations that touch many people's lives across the region and even nationally. And like I said, I'm doing the work as a volunteer, but as a leader in these spaces where I'm advising governors and mayors and lawmakers. And so when the current member of city council made the decision after 4 terms to not run for reelection, um, I was nudged, but I really sat and thought about it. And this was, of course, prior to November. So
Mm-hmm.
um, I said, well, I mean, you know what to do. You understand government, you understand the way it functions, you understand the purpose of city council, you understand how it has the most direct impact
Mm-hmm.
of any government office on helping the people who live in your district like live lives where you're taking care of the roads so they can take care of their families,
Right.
right? You're making sure they're connected to resources so they can do what they got to do for the people they're taking care of
Mm-hmm.
or for themselves,
Mm-hmm.
having access to things. So it honestly just kind of made sense. Not, again, not something else like, yes, I want to be. No, it was more of I know that I have the values. I know I have the knowledge. I know I have the experience. I know I would do a great job. I know I can make a positive impact. So I want to step up
Mm-hmm.
and make a difference. And that's actually how I ended up deciding to run for office. Yeah.
You talk to people a little bit about why city council members, why it's important strategically to have the right people serving on city council and what kind of decisions they make that affect, voters every day.
Absolutely. So the mayor, of course, their function is to be the executive for the entire city, making sure the entire city functions, the entire city operates the way that it needs to. City council, though, right? We're the ones who, when you need potholes filled, when you need your streets paved, when you need snow removed, when there are issues with trash removal, that is city council.
Mm-hmm.
You go to your city council person because that's the person who is supposed to be saying, listen, my people need this, 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 and this. They're the ones who are supposed to be advocating, telling the mayor, I need you to make sure that my district is a priority. I need you to make sure that in your budget for street calming, we have what we need to keep people safe. In your budget for fixing sidewalks, I need you to come over here.
Mm-hmm.
These are the unique issues at my side of town. So whatever your plans are for developing in the city, I need you to come over here and do this work, but I need you to do it this way to make sure that the folks that are counting on me are served and not other interests. So that the advocacy piece is huge, huge, huge. And then
Mm-hmm.
of course you have legislation, right? You can put forth legislation. So for instance, we're seeing a lot around housing right now when it comes to zoning and other things, what it looks like to advocate, for instance, on behalf of keeping our water public, our utilities public.
Mm-hmm.
This is the kind of stuff and the kind of work that city council does. So, and so you're not just the voice, the advocate for your people in your district. You have the power to present legislation that could impact and would impact the entire city. And then, of course, budget priorities. So not only do you approve the budget put forth by the mayor and can influence, you have funds that you can direct towards different programs, different projects, different initiatives. For instance, some members of city council who didn't previously have community centers in some of their neighborhoods were able to get the money and to get that done. That is something that we need badly over here
Mm-hmm.
in District 2 because we have neighborhoods that have no resources.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so city council is extremely important. So who you have in that seat, uh, their values, their ideologies, whether or not they care about folks who are most vulnerable or care about everybody, regardless of party, regardless of who they are. Um, it's really important to have people who bring that lens and and also intelligence and knowledge
Mm-hmm.
who can be intentional.
They're your voice. I mean, so it's important that the person that is representing you, because every district in the city is split up by district, has a representative on that council. So it's important that whoever represents the district where you live understands, what your needs are and what the community needs are, right? That it's not special interest, that, like you said, they represent the entire district. So it is important. Representation really does matter, because if you have someone who's not connected to the community, or the community doesn't know what the community needs or what's happening in the community, then they're not going to be a very good voice for you in terms of getting, like you said, getting those streets plowed and making sure the garbage is picked up and the water stays public, and any other issues that are important to you in your community, whether it's safety,
Yes.
all of those things, right?
Yeah.
Those are the people who directly serve you. And I think people, often, look over that, look past that, right? And everyone goes straight to the mayor, but I think I look at city council almost like our small house of representatives, right?
Yes. Yes. Exactly. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Absolutely. So yeah, so knowing, having someone who knows what's happening, what's important, and with in the community, whether it's community centers or, elderly, you know what I mean? Are there programs or programming or things that you want to bring into the community for the people, who need things, like the senior citizens in the community, or after school programs and, other programming, summer programming for kids and things like that. They're the person who fights for you to make sure that your district, your community has those things, right? Because
Absolutely.
it doesn't just happen. Trust me.
Absolutely. And they need to have the ability to also build relationships. So, again, that is something that I do. I specialize in. I have a proven track record of establishing relationships with people. Every initiative I've ever done or been engaged in, all required for me to find out who the experts were in their particular field. What do you do well? How can we come together to do this together? And so, whoever's in city council, they are supposed to fight for you and advocate for you and should be able to work with, right, whoever's the mayor. They should also be intentional about holding the mayor accountable, whoever they are.
Mhm.
But they also should be able to have a professional, positive working relationship. It's not about you being best friends. It's about, do we respect each other and the fact that we're all elected officials, and can we partner? And something that we sorely need is more partnership.
Mhm.
I would have to be able to partner with other members of council, right? How can we legislate and prioritize a budget that serves everyone in the best way possible, while I'm making sure that the priorities of my district are met? However, District 2, right? We share borders with McKees Rocks, with Carnegie. Uh, I need to be able to make sure that, public safety, things like
Mhm.
that, it doesn't respect borders,
Right,
right?
right.
So what's going on in McKees Rocks impacts District 2. What it was going on in District 2 impacts McKees Rocks. Same thing with Carnegie.
Hmm.
For instance, we have residents in District 2 who live in East Carnegie, and most of the resources they utilize are in Carnegie. There's no safe pedestrian passageway for them to get to the pharmacy, the grocery store, all those resources that are right there.
Yeah.
And that is an opportunity because we're all in Allegheny County, right? Where we could look into saying, hey, how can we make it so that if you wanted to walk, if you wanted to bike, just free up and make that safer,
Hmm.
right? How do the traffic patterns going in and out of Carnegie to East Carnegie and those businesses? How can we work with them and partner with them so that the businesses can do what they need to do, but our residents also have safety on those busy roads, but also have clean air and aren't impacted by exhaust. It definitely it requires all of those things that checks and balances, so the mayor's not just doing whatever they want to do, but again, being professional about it.
Hmm.
Not grandstanding, not using politics, as a smokescreen, but being accountable, right? Being accountable and being able to show results and not shying away from those hard conversations. And those are all things that I have spent a career doing. Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. So can you talk a little bit? You mentioned that you are write-in. So can you
Yes.
explain what that means to
Yes.
to voters and that's work, just so folks know what to expect when they get there to vote.
Yes. So if you live in District 2, when you go to vote, what that means is that um, there's going to be a name on the ballot, just one name, and it's not my name. So, what I'm offering is change. What I'm offering is a new perspective. What I'm offering is an experience. And in order to bring that to District 2, people will basically have to write my name in. So Amanda Neatrour, you'll see a line that says writing candidate, and you would write my name in and then bubble in that little dot next to the name just like you would. So basically, because my name doesn't appear in the ballot, you put my name in the ballot, you bubble it in, and that's it. You vote for me. So whether you are mailing in your ballot or whether you are going to the polls. Uh, and we're going to have volunteers out there making sure that you know how to spell my name. And we're door knocking as we speak. I've got volunteers out there door knocking right now in District 2. And the truth is, it's not as hard as it seems. Actually, what's interesting is there are people who write in anyway. You always get people who are already just writing in,
Mhm.
just because they don't care for the choices that are available, but they still want to use their voice. They still want to exercise their right to vote. So that's what it means. It just means a little extra effort. However, people are pretty enthusiastic. And so, it's just another way to use your voice, another way to have a choice when the choices that are presented to you on the ballot are not what you want.
Absolutely. And that's what democracy is, right?
Absolutely.
That is the core the central of democracy is being able to make a choice on who represents you, who speaks for you. And so I'm glad we have this opportunity to spotlight you during, Black Women's History Month. Just, we wanted to make sure that people know that, we are Black women are the backbone of democracy. We are always stepping
Yes.
up and stepping out and bringing about change, but we can't do it alone. We need folks to help us. We have to do this together. And so while Amanda may be taking the lead to sit on city council, once she gets there, I'm going to speak it. Once she gets there, she's going to need the support of the community to work
Yes.
together. It's definitely teamwork. So if someone has questions or wants to reach out to you about your campaign or anything else, can you tell the people where they can reach you at?
Absolutely. So my website is Amanda for PGH. That's Amanda, AMANDA, FORPGH.com. Also, you can email us at info at Amanda4PGH.com. So that's a great way to email the campaign directly. You can also find me on Facebook, Amanda for City Council. Also, Amanda for PGH on Instagram and Blue Sky. and X. So, we're all over social media. And, just in recognition of Black Women's History Month, there hasn't been a Black woman on city council since 2009.
So now it's a good time to make history. Absolutely.
And never one from this side of town. So, I'm excited to bring that badly needed representation and voice. And again, not just because I'm a Black woman, because I'm a Black woman who is highly qualified and has the experience and the desire. However, we've been talking about Black women being the backbone of democracy and the disparities facing Black women and women in general in Pittsburgh, and how great would it be to finally have that voice back on city council. So people aren't making decisions about us and bringing us to the table in steering committees and in advocacy, but actually having the actual power at the table, to speak up. So, I think that's important, and that cannot be overlooked.
Absolutely. I agree 100%. So the election is May
20th. However, people who are mailing in their ballots are actually getting them starting next week, I believe. So technically, voting starts
early voting.
I believe next week, early voting. However, if you're going to the polls, please go. If we haven't seen any, like if November was an indication of what happens when people don't vote, right? Because 30% of people just didn't vote at all.
Yep.
So if you haven't voted in a while, really, I encourage you to think about using your voice. Because again, council has the most direct impact on your life, your day to day. So get out and vote, exercise your voice.
Absolutely. Get out there and vote. So thank you so much for taking this few minutes to speak with me. I wish you the best of luck with your campaign. People should reach out if they just want to help with the campaign, if they want to donate to the campaign, all of those things. And we will make sure to share all of that information in the show notes as well. So after the fact, people they can get it either written or they can watch the show and get the information. But yes, but thank you again for showing up and showing out and being the catalyst for change in the community in which you live. And so we appreciate that. We need more of that, and representation so matters. And so thanks again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks for tuning in today. Be sure to check back in a few days for our next episode. Follow us on social media and visit our website at www.blackwomenspolicycenter.org for more information.